Nick, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks, Rene. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about multi-language audio, which, if people aren't familiar, it lets you take your videos, let's say you recorded them in English, and make your own dub tracks, upload those to the video, and then share it literally with the world.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a fun new thing.
So, what interested you about multi-language audio? Why did you get into it?
I mean, for me, it's there's a few reasons. I think it all starts with food, which is what everything on our channel and everything we do is about. And I think that realistically, I realize everybody in the world loves food, which is great. That's one thing that we all have in common, right? The other thing about food is it goes way beyond geography, culture, language, way beyond everything. And you can bring people together so easily with food. So you might be thinking, how does that tie to multi-language audio, or MLA? I'm going to use that abbreviation since we're talking about it a bunch. And it's the idea that it lets me share these food videos with people that otherwise may not be able to enjoy my videos. So yes, the visuals are there, the food is there, but if I'm speaking in English and you speak any other language, which makes a lot of sense given 80% of the world doesn't speak English, then it just it allows me to share it with so many more people out there. And so it's this really universal thing that we're making videos about every single day. But how do we share it with way more people? This is the answer.
We've seen some creators like Mark Rober doing 30 languages per video. We've seen other creators like Jimmy, Mr. Beast, doing things like Klingon and Zulu. How are you approaching just the languages that you do?
I thought about choosing languages kind of like choosing ingredients to cook a dish, right? And by that, I mean, if you're going to cook this beautiful pasta at home this evening, let's say you want a little bit of truffle oil in there. Well, that's going to cost a lot of money. And each additional ingredient that you spend a lot of money on is going to cost more and more and more, just like each language that you add for dubbing. And so part of the decision there was just deciding, how do I balance out the ingredients in that dish and how do I make it, as reasonable as possible while still achieving this amazing final outcome, this amazing final pasta dish. So it came down to a little bit of this sort of analytical side and also just the personal side. For instance, on the analytical side, it makes so much sense to do Spanish. Tons of people around the world speak Spanish. That one's a no-brainer for adding a language. Whereas Italian, for instance, doesn't have as many speakers worldwide. So it's kind of one of those decisions where I just did it because I'm Italian and I'm a dual citizen and I just wanted to do Italian, right? And so I think everybody's going to have different reasons for choosing different languages. And maybe we'll build up down the line to more niche things like Zulu, for instance. But I think for now, we tried to find that balance between, the cost. It's very expensive to dub, especially in human voiceover, and then kind of rounding things out to make sure we could hit as many people as possible.
Yeah, I love that. And I think I want to make sure I get this right, but I think on average, YouTube has seen creators uploading multi-language audio. Their videos saw over 25% of their watch time from views in the non-primary language. Are you seeing a lot of engagement from those other languages?
Yeah, it's incredible. I have to say I'm not all that surprised given that stat about 80% of the world not speaking English. But at the same time, yes, I mean, we're seeing fantastic numbers. I'm not going to lie to you and say that I look at the numbers every day because I like to create the videos that we make without getting too deep in the data, honestly. And I think the reason for that is because I don't ever want my decisions to be calculated based on too much data. I want to be able to just do what I love and do what I do best, which is create ideas that are around food and food entertainment, right? So I'm not going to be able to hit you with a bunch of different numbers of exactly those stats and that kind of thing. But I do know that it's doing really, really well and that everybody else on my team seems to be really happy about the numbers in different languages. So that's great. I mean, it's done exactly what we want. It's shared these videos with more people around the world. And that's all we really wanted with this. So.
Question for you. Like, you're taking these delicious morsels of languages, but cooking is already international. How do you go about understanding, like, when you've dubbed something, what, like, is lasagna like rendered properly in Dutch? Is rijsttafel or feijoada like done properly? How do you just control for like the wide variety of food names when you're doing dubs?
Yeah, that's a really interesting thing. I think there are certain things that definitely don't translate perfectly. And the other thing that I've thought is really funny is the idea that, when I meet people now in different countries who are listening and something different. So, for instance, I was in this little chain of islands called the Azores last week for just a couple days, and it's a chain of Portuguese islands in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, and they speak Portuguese there. And there were people that were coming up to me all dinner one night asking for photos, and one of these kids said to me, "You're really huge here." And I was like, first of all, I would never have guessed that. I would never have known that. But second of all, I got this weird look from a couple of them where it was sort of like, I know that you're Nick, but you don't sound like Nick. And that's because they're not listening to my voice in these videos. So that was the first time that sort of clicked for me, ironically, just a few days ago. And I feel like some of these things might get a little bit lost in translation. And it's very interesting to think about, right? That there's sort of another me or someone else speaking in my same way somewhere, and I'll never really know how great of a job they're doing at it or lack thereof. But I mean, that's kind of the fun of some of this too. And that's where you have to really trust the people that are doing the dubbing.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's interesting because this has been something that's happened in traditional entertainment for a long time. Like I used to, as a kid, I would look at the different titles for movies around the world, and the different, like, I would listen to it in France French versus Quebec French, or like Spanish, sorry, like Portuguese versus Brazilian Portuguese, and each had their own little idiosyncrasies. And I think what I love about this is you can choose those languages and you can cater for those audiences.
Yeah, you can. And the coolest part about it is that it doesn't affect the original English-speaking audience at all. They in fact probably don't even know that there's dubbing because, again, I was having a haircut just yesterday, and there was a Japanese barber that was doing a little exchange at my barbershop, and he started talking with me, and I hit him with a few Japanese words just from our trips there, and he really loved it. And then he asked what I did, and I showed him the channel, and immediately it popped up on his iPhone as a Japanese dubbed video, which was really cool. And so for me to see stuff like that as well, it's great. But also the great thing is, again, it doesn't affect somebody that's just watching in English every time because it's not going to pop up like that for them. And so the coolest thing is it was the most seamless transition to reach more people without affecting anybody that was already there.
Yeah, I think like two concerns that we hear. One is that, let's say I do the Spanish dub 2 weeks after the English dub, is it going to have a fair shot in Discovery?
Yeah.
And the answer is yes. Like the Discovery team very purposefully treats it as a new video for that audience. So whether you do it same day or a week later, there's no like theoretical penalty. It just tests that new video with that new audience. And other people are worried because CPMs are different in different countries, and they look at the average. Like, let's say they get $100 in one market and $20 in the other market, and the average says $60, and they start to panic and say, "What happened?" But like that's just the average. The total you're getting now is $120. Like it's actually additive.
Yeah. So our primary language is still English, but I do know that adding on these other languages has not impacted the original English viewers in any way. Right? When you get on a phone in a different place, the video should autoplay in that particular language. And so in that sense, all the original viewers are still very much happy. And then we've added all these different new languages. And I know that the average view duration in these other languages is often the same, if not even higher than it is in English, which just proves that point and that hypothesis that food is really beloved worldwide.
The other thing I really love about what you've done is you've done a large amount of your catalog. I think almost your entire, if not your entire main channel. And I think sometimes people will experiment with one video, and then someone comes in and let's say they watch the Spanish version of one video and they love it and they want to watch another one, and there isn't. And so like their journey ends there. But what you've done is you've done the entire, like people can get into it in these languages and they can go follow you through the rest of the videos.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, listen, my job is obviously to try to know YouTube and how the platform works better than 99.9% of the people on this planet. And I understand that the algorithm works in such a way where, when you finish watching a video, it then wants to show you several videos that you're hopefully going to love the most next. And so for me, if I just dubbed a couple videos in a certain language, let's say Spanish, and then like you said, it suddenly ends and I don't have any more in Spanish, then I know right there I'm getting cut off and some other videos are getting recommended. So my job, of course, is to make sure that our videos are getting recommended as much as possible because, we want as many people to see them as we can. And if I don't dub as many as I can, that's not going to happen. So exactly, we had to sort of look through our backlog and similar to choosing which languages we should move forward with, we also had to choose which video should we actually move forward with, which was a little bit easier because I feel like we could just look and say, okay, this one already did very well in English, and you have to imagine that if it did well in English, it's hopefully going to do well in other countries, and there's going to be that high level of interest. So it was easier to choose, I would say, the videos that we were going to dub than it was to choose the languages that we were going to move forward with.
Yeah. I mean, like you said before, like there is an expense to doing these sorts of custom dubs. We don't try to be prescriptive, but one of the things we have suggested is creators can sort by watch time, or they can sort by revenue. So which videos are currently getting the most attention, which are making the most money, whatever is the most important to them, and then dub like to start with the top 20, maybe go to the top 50, and then see how it works for you and go through. But like you said, like create that viewer journey.
So the first decision you have to make when you decide whether or not to dub your videos is, do you want AI or human voiceovers? And we chose pretty quickly human voiceover because I just felt like I would miss out on some of my personality when translating to other languages otherwise. And there are just sort of nuances in different languages that I wanted to have. I every country has its special little things, and I want to sound hip in Japanese if I'm speaking there, and I want to be able to, I want to be able to sound cool in Thailand or make a funny joke in the right way there. And so we really wanted to make sure we could nail all those little details. And again, more expensive. We knew it was going to be more expensive, but we decided to just make that decision to just give that slightly better viewer experience. There are so many intricacies, so many little details here. We work with this company called Human Voiceover, and they've got 15 studios around the world. They're all native speakers there. I've never met any of these people, but obviously there's a lot of trust there, and I've sent them my cookbook in hopes that I can meet them all in person down the road. But again, these people are able to take my voice in English and then fix and put in all those little nuances of their own personal language. And so it's such an important role that each one of these people has. And again, I have a lot of trust in them to be able to take what I'm saying in English and give that same impression to the viewer that I'm trying to give in that different language.
I can't even imagine everything from the ingredients to the techniques to what the cool kids are saying.
Exactly. Yep.
You're also part of a pilot for multi-language thumbnails. How's that going?
It's great. It's great. I mean, the simplest way we think about it is the thumbnail is the front door to every single video that you post on YouTube, right? And so before this pilot program that I'm in, all of my thumbnails just had that English text on them, if they did have text, right? Obviously, you can also make a thumbnail that has no language on it at all, and people can just look at this visual and know what's happening. But there are times, of course, where you need a word, or I don't know, let's just say you have a box that you want it to be labeled live seafood, right? Sometimes there's going to be English words in that thumbnail. So again, before this, all my thumbnails had only English text on them, right? And so if someone from Japan or Brazil clicked on my video, they'd still hear it dubbed in their own language, but the first thing they saw on YouTube was still going to be that thumbnail with English words. And with these localized thumbnails now, you can change the text too. Someone in Japan or Brazil sees my video, it feels to them, I think, like it was actually made for them from the start. And it wasn't just sort of this, it wasn't a partially translated video, if that makes sense. So, I mean, it's a small shift in a way, but at the same time, it's not, because thumbnails, the sooner you realize how important thumbnails are, the better your channel is going to be. It's such an important key part of just it's like the front cover of the book, right? You need to get people to open that first page.
Yeah, 100%. I can just imagine 9,000 foot pizza, small arrow, tiny Nick, me in multi-languages, all on the thumbnail.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, it's so key. We get really, really excited. And when I say we, I mean me and my team. Whenever some update comes out, we get very, very excited. Even back in 2022, we were hunting down Google's Area 120 team, which is, if people don't know, it's this small internal lab where Googlers can pitch and build their experimental products, right? And so we knew they were probably working on different early versions of some of this kind of thing, but we've always been very excited about trying to get ahead of these new tools that come out, because, I mean, it sounds kind of like silly and nerdy to be so excited about this stuff, but we get very excited about this stuff.
I love that. And I think like the best news of all is that we're continuing to expand multi-language audio. It's going to be available to millions of creators very, very soon, if not by the time you're watching this video. And it just unlocks so much audience around so much of the world.
Yeah, I mean, and I would say this: if you're a creator on YouTube or anywhere who hasn't gotten access to this yet, the nice thing is that a lot of these sort of tricky parts of it have been ironed out for you now. So there's been a lot of difficulty for a lot of people trying to figure out how this works and how to make it flow the best. And now that's hopefully all going to be set up for someone like you to go ahead and implement and use, and you don't have to worry about any of the difficulties that came with it. So yeah, it was a challenging thing, and I shouldn't say that I, myself dealt with too much, but I know a lot of people worked really hard trying to figure all this out, because it's not the easiest thing to figure out, even though it seems straightforward in some ways. So that's a huge positive now. Is as it rolls out, I think it should be much more straightforward than it has been these last few months and years.
Nick, thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for all you're doing for creators and for viewers.
Yeah, no, Rene, thanks so much. Good to see you. I'm sure I'll see you soon.
Yes.